At that time, I will give you the number that you can call in and also the email address. First things first, on our donations, they're a little slow, so what you want to do is you want to begin to get those donations in as quick as possible, and you can do that by going to or making payable to K&E World Network. That's Box 6184, Columbus, Ohio 43206, in care of the compensatory concept. Now, we will accept money orders or bank checks, but no personal checks. And we will also email you your receipts, and all donations will be final. Now, the purpose of this is to extend the compensatory concept for and an additional hour, making it a 2-hour program. So you've been talking about it, you've been wanting it, so this is what you have to do. Send in your donations, and then we get enough and we can do it. Our goal is to cover 1 year worth of programming. Mr. Fuller does not get any money from the donations, and neither do I, for that matter of fact. I don't get anything from it. This is purely for the extension of the compensatory concept for an additional hour and programming for 1 year. Neither one of us get any monies from this. In fact, Mr. Fuller doesn't have anything to do with that part of the process. Nothing to do with it. So don't send any money whatsoever to Neely Fuller for donations for the compensatory concept show going 1 hour. Don't do that. That's all a Talktainment Radio and Can't function. So don't do that. But what you can do is you can get Mr. Fuller's book, and it's called The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. And it is simply a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, which is white supremacy. And you can go to Produce Justice. That's producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. And all the information is on there on how to order the book. And for an additional fee, you may purchase a word guide. Now, Mr. Fuller does get that, just a promotion of his book. Now, I don't get any of that, and Mr. Fuller does not pay me to do this, to push this. I do this because I want to, and I want you to get his book so that you can understand what is going on. So now that the house cleaning is out of the way, I will give you the numbers that you can call in after I say hello to Mr. Fuller and get his first words. Mr. Fuller, good morning, and how are you this day?
Good morning, and I'm still learning.
You are still learning. Okay, what is on your mind or you would like to speak about before we open up the phone lines and the Gmails?
Well, I'd just like for people to think about, this is supposed to be Black History Month, also Valentine's Day month. And they can think about what these days are supposed to mean in a functional sense. Now, I think that maybe everybody should start thinking about making a review of what Black History Month is actually supposed to produce. And for that matter, what Valentine's Day is supposed to produce. Really, with all the turmoil going on in the world, we should have some type of production out of any days that we are setting aside for recognition, special recognition. In fact, maybe all of the days that are called so-called holidays or holy days should be thought of as what do you actually do that needs doing. Otherwise, maybe all of these days, for one thing, all of them really need to be reviewed. Need to really be reviewed, and for what the essence of these days are supposed to mean, and what they're actually supposed to accomplish. And I have my own ideas about them, but I just wanted to throw that out there this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Since every month we seem to have some added days on, over a period of years, and every month you have something that's called a holiday or a holy day or a day that's set aside for special recognition. Maybe all of these days need to be reviewed and updated as to what you're supposed to actually do on these days. Otherwise, maybe the days shouldn't even exist at all anymore. Just do away with them as holidays or holy days or special days. Because every day you're supposed to be trying to accomplish something that makes sense. That's the logical procedure. And so if you say that there are some days that are more special than others, special why? Special in order to do what? In order to accomplish what? See, it should come down to something that you're trying to accomplish. If you can't specify what it is you're trying to accomplish, you might as well not even have them. That's my 2 cents on that.
All righty. Touche, 2 cents. Okay, before we go to the phone lines, let's go to the Gmails. And let's see here. We got a question from Mr. Baptiste. He says, Mr. Fuller, do white people need the endorsement of non-white people to prove that they are not racist?
Do white people need the endorsement of non-white people to prove that they are not racist?
That is his question, yes, sir.
Yes, each white person should be in the process of proving that they're not racist in a world that's dominated by racism. I think there's a general consensus that racism is a huge factor in what happens to the people on the planet. So people, just like when people stand up and say that they're patriotic, they're making an announcement that that's something special that a person should be, that a person should be a good person. Sometimes you just use the term good. You just say that, hey, I'm a good person, or I'm a truthful person, or I'm this type of person, or that type of person. So in a world that's dominated by racism, for certain, every white person should make it very clear, I'm not one of those people who believe in racism. Let's get that straight right off the bat. I do not believe in mistreating people based on color. I do not believe in dominating people based on color, and I don't believe in mistreating people based on color. The color of the skin has nothing to do with what I think. Every white person should be able to say that.
Okay.
And say that what they do believe in is treating everybody correctly, and make that clear. Because what this color thing is all about is not treating people correctly. So everybody should make it very clear. I'm not that type of criminal, because racism is a crime. And all people commit some type of crimes. People do what you call jaywalk every day. I've done it. That's committing a crime. So no people can say that they are not criminals if you have ever committed any kind of crime or broken any kind of law, because there are laws that are broken all the time, and there are millions of laws on somebody's books. Some of these laws shouldn't even, as far as having them on paper, shouldn't even be there.
Yes, sir.
Because they're outdated. The law shouldn't be there at all. But they have never been rescinded. So everybody is a criminal. But one of the major crimes, if not the major crime, in my opinion, the major crime on the planet ever since it has begun, was the system of white supremacy,
okay,
which means mistreating people based on color.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All righty. Phone lines are now going to be open. You can call at 1-877-932-9766. They are now open, so you may call. Or you can Gmail me at 7MrBobby@gmail.com. And if I have time, I will try to get to the Gmails. I have a few that I have to go read. Okay. All righty. Let's go to the phone lines. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, am I on?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want to ask Mr. Fuller. I went all the way to. I got a few things. Now with the police, and then I want to follow up on this Beyonce thing that people are talking about.
It's got to be real quick, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. We see all of these white policemen. Somebody coming up with bail for these white police. It could be the FOP and even their GoFundMe. You see how they take care of their people. Now, the two young black boys down in Louisiana that shot the boy and his father, they're still in jail. That shot the 60-year-old boy. See, they're one of their young boys got shot. Then our 12-year-old Tamir Rice got. It's just different. Those guys haven't been able to make bail. Nobody's came up with money for them. Now, and then I'll move on to Beyonce. I know Mr. Fuller talks about the black tailoring. Now, Beyonce is hollering Black Lives Matter while booty shaking. And I was telling another black talk radio station, that don't make sense to me. I'm not a fan of hers, but what do white people care about that? And how does this racial tailoring, maybe this is exactly what the white supremacists want. So if he can comment on this police situation with the bail and the Beyonce thing, I'd really appreciate that, Mr. Bobby, and you take it easy.
Okay, Mr. Fuller, he wants your comment on that.
Well, the law enforcement situation, I've repeatedly said, black people themselves can start by being very serious. When you see, particularly, a lot of incidents happen when people are pulled over or when people are approached by someone who has the badge and the authority, quote unquote, and the gun that goes around with backing up the authority. Usually the person is armed, has the means of making sudden death. Anybody approaches you with the means of making sudden death in an official capacity. I'm not talking about robbers and whatnot, street robbers and whatnot. I'm talking about someone who is supposed to be in law enforcement. The best thing that you can possibly do until we get this thing all sorted out is three things. Don't fuss, don't fight, and don't flee. Because if you do any one of those three things, it's going to get real complicated real quick. And the complication is most likely going to wind up being something very ugly for the non-white person who is involved, like sudden death. Because people who approach you with the means of making sudden death may just resort to that. So you don't want to play with that. Don't play with that at all. Don't play with it. Stop playing with it. If you're approached and someone says, okay, show me your registration, show me your ID, show me this, don't fuss, don't fight, and don't flee. Why? Because the record has shown you're most apt to lose.
Okay.
Now, the Beyonce thing, I don't know too much about what that's all about. I couldn't interpret much. I've heard people kind of mention it and whatnot. But the gentleman mentioned something about booty shaking and whatnot. Well, then the question that is raised is, what is that supposed to be about? So the code says anytime anybody's doing anything, the person who should answer the questions is the person who is doing whatever's being done. So if Miss Beyonce is doing what they call booty shaking, then she can say why she is booty shaking and what she intends to accomplish by that. She can explain that. Neely Fuller is not qualified to explain what she's doing. I can have my own ideas and what my reaction of it is, but that might not be accurate.
Mm-hmm.
So this might be a message that she's sending. So she can say what the message is. and what people are supposed to do as a result of that message.
Well,
that's the way that works.
If
that's codification.
If Beyonce is listening to the compensatory concept, maybe she can call in and explain booty shaking. Anyway, well, her booty shaking. Anyway, Talk Team at Radio is a 24/7, no charge worldwide broadcasting facility that have hosts delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, health, wellness, religion, politics. And now here's one that I would like to share with you, and it is simply called Crossing Cultures with host Julia Lynn Walker. And she has a great conversation regarding the dysphoria. If you don't know what that is, look it up. If you're interested in knowing your history, Julianne talks about that and more with great guests. Now, you can tune in to Cross Cultures every Wednesday, broadcasting here on Talk Team at Radio. That's exclusively on TalkTeamAtRadio.com, and that's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, and you're listening to TalkTeamAtRadio.com with my guest, Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., 1-877-932-9766 is the number. You can call or Mr. Bobby at gmail.com, and we'll try to get you on. Let's go to line number 2. You're on. Go ahead with your call, sir, or ma'am.
Yes, hello, good morning. This is Tyreek from the Bronx.
Okay, Tyreek.
My question for Mr. Fuller is, I've been reading a few books by a few authors, few white authors, and one of them by the name of Michael Bradley. He has a book called The Iceman Inheritance, The Prehistoric Sources of Western Man's Racism, Sexism, and Aggression, and another one called Chosen People of the Caucasus, and basically breaks down that the Europeans have a mental case of aggression, and they're the most aggressive race on the planet. So basically it's come to mind like that if the problem of white supremacy stems from the mental capacity of the European, don't they have to do more of a role in ending the system than we do, seeing as it's a mental condition within themselves?
Mr. Fuller?
Well, according to what I have written, and I try to base what I write and what I say on logic, the people who are committing any kind of crimes should stop committing the crimes. Now, what I mean by crimes, I mean crimes where people are being mistreated. That's what crime means. You're mistreating someone. So, to harm someone based on the color of the skin, which is what white supremacy is, that crime should stop. And the criminals are the people who are doing it. And just stop doing it in all areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Stop committing these crimes. They know who they are. They know what they think. They know what their ambitions are. And if their ambitions include anything about mistreating people based on color, just stop doing it. And it doesn't make any difference how many millions of books that we have or sermons that are preached and all like that. It's a very simple thing. If you're doing it, stop doing it. And it's the white supremacists that somebody thought it up a long time ago and passed it down through generations, and that's what we're wrestling with now, right to this very moment, on this program and on everything else that's happening in the world. It's based on this color thing, arguing against someone or mistreating someone based on color. Mm-hmm. Just stop doing it.
Just stop doing it. Okay. Let's see. I have a question. It says here from the Gmail. It says, Mr. Fuller, because I often hear that non-white people are racist toward non-white people, some even calling it black racism. My question is, how and what to respond to this to a non-white person who is saying this? I guess what he's saying is how do we respond to a non-white people saying that they are often called racist.
Well, according to what I have written, victims of racism cannot be racist. They are victims of racism. So they are taught to mistreat each other. That goes with the white supremacist scheme. They set it up so that non-white people, they're slaves. It's just like slaves on a plantation. They are taught to fight each other. Put on the boxing gloves or get some sticks and whatnot. I mean, and make it almost entertainment. This is where you get black gangs from. That's just a reaction to racism. But they are not racist themselves. They have just been told that, hey, get a gun, get a stick, and go around and find somebody that looks just like you and do harm to them. Because that's what we want you to do. Because that's what we do to you. So we want you to imitate us. That's the white supremacist doctrine. They have their slaves imitate the slave master when it comes to beating up on people that look just like the slaves. So one slave is encouraged and enticed and rewarded for beating up the other slave right there on the slave ship. Both of them are still slaves, but the slave master, in order to entertain himself, or the slave mistress, I mean, the white woman who believes in white supremacy, she comes down the ladder and say, I'm going to, release a couple of you slaves and from your chains and give you some extra food, and I'm going to entertain myself by watching you all whip each other or beat each other with your chains, the chains that I had on you, on both of you. Then I'm going to put you back in the chains, with your scars that you have added to yourself under my command, and I'll give you some extra cornmeal or something like that and go back up the ladder and call it a day. Nothing new about that. That's why you get your charrettes, as Spike Lee says, and whatnot. That's what that's all about. That's just black people carrying out the wishes of the slave masters. That's all it is. They can't call it nothing else. If they look in the mirror and be honest with themselves, they can't call it nothing else. That's where they got it from.
All righty. Let's see. Let's go to caller line number 3. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Go ahead with your question.
Hello. Firstly, I have a comment, and then I do have a question. I spoke with Mr. Fuller once on the phone before, and it seems that his point in writing the code and also giving this talk, these kinds of talks, is that every person of color needs to be on a codified way of thought and action to move against racism and towards eliminating it. I feel that a lot of people are sort of getting lost in things like Beyonce and just social issues. They're not paying attention that the code is supposed to be used practically in your life every day. So my question for Mr. Fuller is there any insight that you can give how we can distribute this code to people and get everyone on the same page as a collective community?
Mr. Fuller?
Oh, you codify everything. Now, what does codification mean? It means you do and say the best possible thing that can ever be done and said about whatever the problem is. It's all about 2 words, problem solving. That's what codification is, so that there won't be any confusion. A person might ask, well, what does Fuller mean, and what do these other people mean by talking about some kind of code or some type of system or some type of this, that, and the other that black people should be involved in? Well, all it is just 2 words, problem solving. So you're faced with problems every day on the job and everything else. So what you do is just stand back, first of all, and look at and see what is the problem. Or is there a problem? And what is causing the problem? You want to ask these questions, because all problems are solved through the process of what? Questions and answers.
Yes, sir.
You got to remember that. Questions and answers. So you say, do we have a problem here? Now, if we have a problem, what is causing the problem? And somebody might say, well, the problem is we have racism on this job. Oh, well, racism is caused by a person who is a suspected racist. Now, let's see what this person is doing. See, it all comes down to doing and saying. And then you want to do and say whatever will solve the problem. And that means you have to find out what's the best thing to do or not do. See, it's a whole list of things that you don't do. And the best thing to say or not say, because all problems are solved through the process of doing and saying, which means you have to choose the correct words. And this is what people are supposed to be doing every day. And it won't come to you right away, which means what? Just like the title of the book that I've written, Thought, Speech, and Action. So what's the first one? The first word there is thinking. Before you say anything about this problem, you do some thinking.
Yes.
Then you speak. And when you speak, you want to choose your words very carefully so that it addresses the problem in the best possible manner. Whatever you say should be the best possible thing that can ever be said about it. I mean, I'm talking about in the entire world. Out of all the people who have something to say, when you speak, you want to say something that's better than what anybody in the entire world would say about that particular problem that's going on right there on your job right today. When you open your mouth, you should have done enough thinking that you have come to the conclusion, now when I say this, it's going to be better than anything that anybody on the entire planet can ever say about this particular problem that's handled in this particular way. And that's going to take some thinking.
Yes, it sure
A
is.
lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
My last comment is that counter-racism science is brilliant, and the book is reaching a lot of people. Thank you for the show, and thank you for the guide.
All righty. Thank you for your call. That was very good. Hey, listen, those of you who are listening, excuse me, you want to make sure you get a copy of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, which is a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, which is white supremacy. Now, Mr. Neely Fuller wrote the book. It is a very good book, and you can get it by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And then you can get an additional word guide that he has there. Nothing new on the update on the word guide, is it, Mr. Fuller?
Say that again?
Is there anything new on the update on the word guide or just the book?
No. Actually, what's being updated is the basic book.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Not the word guide.
Okay.
Right.
And we can go to producejustice.com?
Yes, but you won't get the book that's being worked on because it's still being worked on.
Yes,
that's
sir.
the updated version.
Okay.
But to get the book that's out now and has been out since 1984, the latest version of the basic textbook and the word guide, you go to producejustice.com.
All righty, producejustice.com. Okay, donations, K&E World Network, Post Office Box 6184, Columbus, Ohio, 43206, in care of the compensatory concept. Check, bank check, or money orders, no personal checks will be accepted. TalkTimeRadio.com. We go where you go. Check us out on WCRS FM 98.3 Wednesday and Sunday. Evening blogs are available along with the podcast. Download the Talktainment Radio app to your cell or tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. We go where you go. Robin and Lynette, Andrew and Sipway. Hang on. All that and more coming up next.
Considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers.
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Go ahead. Make my day.
You got the power.
TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Download TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is your co-host, Mr. Bobby, on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And if you'd like to call in, you can by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. .com. Before I go to the Gmails, let me get this call in. Caller, you are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Brother, and thank you and Mr. Fuller for allowing me again to come to class. First, I would like to say they came, they saw, they conquered, they exterminated. Now, Mr. Bobby, you had somebody email you last week, and they said that when I said that they are going to exterminate us, the person said I did not mean that they are going to exterminate every single black person in this country. That person is right. When they exterminate us here, they are not going to exterminate every single black person in this country. They are going to do just like their forefathers did. To the victor go the spoil. They're going to keep many of our young black boys and girls for their pleasure. They are mad at them. They always have. So they will not be exterminating every single one of us. Now, I want to tell a lot of black men out there, these white boys got y'all caught up on pistols. That's by design. That's for you to kill each other. But in war, you can put a pistol in your pocket. When you're in them mountains in Afghanistan, a pistol do you no good. When you're in that jungle in Vietnam, a pistol do you no good. And when this chaos started here with them, a pistol would do you no good. And they know that. That's why they flood the community with them, for you to kill each other. Now, Mr. Fuller always said that white supremacy love chaos. I agree. And that is exactly what they got going on in this country today.
Yeah.
Stand your ground in Oregon. Everybody need a gun. That's what they want. Because in an atmosphere like that, people can be slaughtered. And this is exactly what they are setting up. And I usually don't have no question for Mr. Fuller because he have his mind made up, and I'm on a different kick. I don't see you trying to reason with a psychopath. I just don't. Okay. I agree with him trying to bring good human beings together, and I do that too. But the psychopath, the Zimmerman, people that kill children, blow up churches, there's no reasoning with them. I'm going to close with this. Mao Zedong said, without an army, the people have nothing.
All right, my brother. Thank you for your call. All right. Mr. Fuller, we want to go to the Gmails, and this is from Robin, and she simply says this, Mr. Fuller, my mother, a black female, has been celibate for 15 years. This is due in part because of her bad experiences with black males. Either they were abusive, drug addicted, or unfaithful. I tried to explain to her that the system of white supremacy ensures that these sorts of things happen to non-white people. Wait a minute, let me read. I tried to explain to her that the system of white supremacy ensures that these sort of things happen to non-white people. But she has her mind made up and wants to start dating again. This time she wants white men only. She says that she's not confused and dating whites won't cause confusion. Mr. Fuller, can you respond to this statement?
Well, what I've written in my book is that under the system of white supremacy, the white supremacists have that set up so that they can steer everybody in that type of thinking. That's a part of their strategy. So it's always been that black females are supposed to be available to white men for sexual purposes, sexual experiments, whatever, just fun and games and whatnot. And then, back to the slave shack. Come up to the big house, and lay around, with the master, and then back to the shacks. Or you might even pick one or two to stay in the big house. And but the rest of them left behind, to toil the fields and put up with the direct overall abuse However, the person who is taken into the big house, like in the case of Thomas Jefferson with Sally Hemings, or with Captain John Smith with Pocahontas and whatnot. Oh yeah, take these, what they used to call them, gals, and use them, and but always let them know that you have an honored place in my bedroom, but you are not equal to a white woman. Don't you ever think that you are equal to a white woman under the system of white supremacy. So that's the deal. That's how they got that set up. Now, they have made black males, and she's correct about that, almost completely worthless. So every black female is dealing with a worthless entity. We black males are failures when it comes to being what we should be. We are nowhere near eligible to be worthy of getting into a bedroom with any black female. I'm going to make that clear. None of us are qualified for that. Why? Because we haven't dealt with the system of white supremacy. We have done everything except that. We have done everything to keep from having to do that. We walk around doing what? Mostly with each other every day, trying to impress each other. But we won't deal with the system of white supremacy. And every black female knows this. So what we do is just we are losers when it comes to doing what we should be spending full time doing. We find in every excuse not to do that. And mostly just strutting around in front of the black females trying to be impressive on empty, because that's where we are, the black males. I can say this as a black male because I'm one of them. I mean, we have proven that we are not serious about serious things. When it comes to anything serious, we get just as silly as we can be. And everything that is serious, we are silly, and everything that is silly, we are serious. And the black females are fed up with it, justifiably so. But we have the arrogance, some of us even blame them for our situation. When we were supposed to be their protectors and whatnot, we can't even protect ourselves. We're not the head of anything. Some of us even have the arrogance to go around saying that, I'm the head of the household. Woman, you need to do what I tell you to do. No black male is the head of anything on this planet under the system of white supremacy.
So is her mother confused?
Say that again.
Is her mother confused?
No, she's not confused about that. But she is in error when she says she can get some relief by going to the white supremacists. Because under the system of white supremacy, no black female is supposed to be in bed with a white man, period. No black male is supposed to be in bed with a white female, period, in the system of white supremacy. We need to get rid of all this bedroom stuff, period, until we straighten out the economics, the education, the forms of entertainment that we choose to engage in, all of the other areas of activity. You save the sex for last.
Yeah.
Based on what? Based on logic. That's what.
Okay.
The sex comes last after all the other business is taken care of.
Okay. Talk to him at radio. Thank you for your, Robin, for that email. Talk to him at radio.com. We go where you go. Download the Talk to him at radio.com app to your cell or tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, and this is the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And if you'd like to call in, you can by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. I probably I'm not going to have time to read them all, but I will get my opportunity to. Let's go to the phone lines. Line number 1. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Yeah, I'd like to tag along the comment about the Beyonce and so forth, and her Black Panther get up and dance and whatnot. That was a war dance, you know what I'm saying? It's been said, and it is true, that white supremacists in their 9 areas of activity use rituals or do rituals and so forth. that was a ritual, a black magic ritual, if you will, to be instituted by Beyonce. Cam Newton being with the Carolina Panthers, her winning the Black Panther get up and so forth. But I want to key on the fact that white supremacists, Giuliani and others, got on Beyonce about "Stop Killing Us," which was written on the wall behind the child in the video Formation, where they were saying, you know, that was inappropriate. That wasn't Super Bowl halftime type of entertainment and so forth. And they were actually getting on her for saying, "Stop killing my people." You know. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to tag that on there. You know.
Okay.
And I wanted Dr. Fuller to expound on the Beyonce comment that he made.
You mean about the booty shaking?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, Mr. Fuller.
Well, I didn't quite understand the question, but I will reiterate what I said before, okay. and that is, Miss Beyonce can explain, I'm sure, her own message. No one should try to interpret her message until she gets a chance to explain her own message. Whenever you're entertaining, or whenever you're talking to someone, or whenever you're writing a letter, or whenever you're texting, you're sending a message. People are sending messages. So, if Miss Beyonce was sending some type of message, and apparently this is what people say that she was sending, then she should be the person who is given the microphone or given time in her own way, in her own words, to explain the message that she is sending to the people who are observing and listening to what she's saying or doing.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Well, I would say this. Anybody that knows Beyonce, or if Beyonce is listening, hey, call into the show at 1-877-932-9766 and explain your message, and then we'll all know. A lawyer listener in Michigan, Mr. Fuller, named Lynette, says this. Mr. Fuller, what evidence do you have that the system of racism, white supremacy can and or will be replaced? Is denial of the system a way white people practice racism, white supremacy? Thank you. Lynette, a lawyer listener in Michigan.
I don't have any evidence because it's never been done. But there are a lot of things that have never been done that finally get done. And the premise is based on logic. The premise of me writing a book. Someone said to me some years ago, they said, "Fuller, you might as well give up on this thing. The race problem cannot be solved. It can only be discussed." And I've heard that several times down through the decades. The race problem cannot be solved. It can only be discussed. Well, I came to the conclusion instantly that if the race problem can't be solved, there's no point in discussing it. That's the logic. You don't try to solve a problem that can't be solved. There's no point in discussing a problem that can't be solved. You just banish that from your mind because the problem can't be solved. It's impossible to solve it. But I came to the conclusion I don't believe that because the logical process is anything, and this is just my opinion, anything that people put together, people can take apart. Now, if it's put together by some force, like the creator of the universe, if it's put together by the creator of the universe, then people may not be able to take it apart. But if it's put together by people, it can be taken apart by people. That's the logic that I have adopted.
And doesn't the logic also say that all problems can be solved through questions and answers?
Yes, because I'm saying that the problem of white supremacy was put together by people.
Okay, gotcha.
So therefore, people can undo
okay.
that problem. They can solve that problem.
Okay. Let's go to the phone lines. Line number 2. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Yes, good morning, Brother Bobby and Dr. Neely Fuller. What I want to talk about, you asked about this black history. Okay, like, I'm 62 years old, I grew up in Houston, Texas, and from being young in my family, we've always been taught about black history because, remember, they took us from our country. Mexicans got Mexico right there, Japan know where they from, and the rest of them, we came here as slaves. So we need to know, because, see, a lot of these youngsters, a lot of these grown people don't even know where they come from. They even have an association with Africa, and the white man has always taught us that Africa didn't love us, they didn't care about us, which is the biggest lie ever told. But in white supremacy, you have to, keep your people down and ignorant and keep them from the actually connecting with those people. But for some reason, white supremacy use all the tricks in the trade that it can, and all white, and it doesn't matter about white being, about them knowing that, against white supremacy, because they always have have the white supremacy at their disposal, and they don't have to really use it because they just being white. They use it on a telephone call. You can tell my black voice from a white man. If I'm looking for a job, you can tell them now come up to somewhere or something like that. So, and we need black history. We really need ancient African history, which is what I teach in my church, and I teach to my people in my school. So I'm not insignificant. I'm very significant. Because we need that, because we need to know that we have a country, we have a flag, we have a people, and everything else. But in white supremacy, we're not taught that. So we have to learn on our own, and that's not insignificant whatsoever.
All right, my brother. All righty, and thank you for your call. Thank you so much. Let's go to line number 1. Line number 1, you are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Hello. I just had 2 quick comments. The first one that I wanted to say is I feel like a lot of black people need guidance on this. Beyonce's performance means nothing. It's one area of activity. It's only entertainment. Don't waste your time trying to figure out if it was a ritual. Don't waste your time trying to figure out what the backlash is. Leave that completely alone. Focus on the other areas such as economics, law, labor. Focus on that because it's only one area of activity. My second comment is that African Americans are not only African, we're also Native American. They lumped all of those people in together. So understand that most of us are a mixture of an African nation and also a Native North American nation. And I feel like black people really need guidance on those 2 things. Thank you for the book. Thank you for the talk, Mr. Bobby.
Alrighty. Thank you for your call. And speaking about that, listen, we have a lot of calls and a lot of emails. You want to get those donations in. We really do thank you for listening, but you need to donate so we can extend the program for an additional hour and fund the program for, a year. And you do that by going to K&E World Network, Post Office Box 6184, Columbus, Ohio. That's 43206, and it's in care of the compensatory concept. Send a money order or a bank check, no personal checks, and then we will email you your receipt, and all donations are final. None of the money goes to me. None of the money goes to Mr. Fuller. This is strictly for this program because evidently this program is very valuable to a lot of our people, and we'd like to get as many phone calls as we can in. And also emails. Let's see. Sippy Way says, Mr. Fuller, I've observed both white people and non-white people speak of institutional racism. According to my understanding, institutions are tools used by people, such as institutional racism must be logically referred to institutions used by racists. These same people, both white and non-white, who speak of institutional racism never identify which institutions and which races are using the institutions. Mr. Fuller, does this failure to name the institutions and the people, the races, who use them contribute to our confusion and inability to understand racism, which is white supremacy, what it is and how it works? Or to put it another way, does counter-racist logic require that we identify and name the racists and the institutions that they use to practice institutional racism?
Well, if I understand the question here again, I'm trying to understand the question. White supremacy takes in 9 areas of activity, and anything that a white supremacist does is to strengthen the system of white supremacy. The system of white supremacy is already an institution. That's just another way of saying the system of white supremacy when you say institutionalized racism. Racism is white supremacy. White supremacy is racism. There's no other form of racism. So that's already in place. So I call it in capital letters the system of white supremacy. And that covers all areas of activity that involve non-white people who are the victims of the system of white supremacy. And those areas of activity are economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. That covers just about everything that everybody is engaged in at any minute of any day, anywhere on the planet, both white people and non-white people. I mean, and all of these areas of activity are interrelated. Religion is associated or interrelated with politics. Politics is interrelated with education. Education is interrelated with economics. Economics is interrelated with religion, and so on and so on and so on. So what the white supremacists did, they looked at the non-white people, the people of color on the planet, and say, we are going to dominate all of these people simultaneously, all of the time, in everything that they do and say. And we are going to figure out a way to not only dominate them, but we are going to mistreat them. Oh. We're not just going to be their bosses.
Okay.
We're going to mistreat them. For what? For fun, for glory, and for material gain.
Okay.
That's what white supremacy is.
Well, the loyal listener in Michigan says, is the denial of the system a way white people practice racism, white supremacy?
Oh, sure. The white supremacists will say anything. You will say, well, we have a system of white supremacy in place. It's Neely Fuller. He's going around saying that there's a system of white supremacy. And the white supremacists will say, if they think it will work for them, they'll just simply say, Neely Fuller is crazy. There's no such thing as white supremacy. It doesn't exist. It never did exist. He's making it all up. They'll say anything. A white supremacist will say anything that they think that people will believe. They don't care. They use words to do one thing, to strengthen their position that's already in place.
All righty. Well, our loyal listener in Michigan, Miss Lynette, I hope that he did answer your second question. Brother Andrew and Justice Soldier, I'm not going to be able to get to your emails or Gmails this week, but Lord willing, I will try to get to them next week. Listen quickly. You need to make some donations to the show, and you can do that by going to the K&E World Network. That's K&E World Network, Post Office Box 6184, Columbus, Ohio 43206, in care of the Compensatory Concept. Money order or a bank check will be acceptable, but no personal checks. We will email you your receipt, and all donations are final. And again, the purpose is to extend the Compensatory Concept for and an additional hour, making it a 2-hour program. And our goal is to cover 1 year worth of programming. Also, very important, make sure you get your copy of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept by Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. You can go to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com to get that book. All right? All right. Talktainmentradio.com, the world's greatest radio, and the radio the way it should be heard. Mr. Fuller and myself, we thank you for listening, and tune in next week and call in or Gmail me on talktainmentradio.com.